What is up, everybody? Today I'm going to be bringing you guys a guide going over everything you need to know to build the best possible VGC team before Regulation I starts officially on May 1st. I don't do these sort of team building guides all that often anymore, but I've got a ton of requests. So in this video, what we're going to be doing is going over the 3 things you guys need to be doing in your own games, the 3 questions you guys could be asking yourself whenever you want to build a team from scratch. After that, we're going to go over and optimize all of our lead optimizations, ranking them by tiers so you know exactly what Pokemon to bring in the team preview for specific matchups. After that, we're going to be going in and ranking all of our defensive type charts so you know exactly what Pokemon to add to cover up for your team's specific weaknesses. And we're also going to be building the team from scratch in Pokemon Showdown and playing a few games with it. I'll also try and have this team available as like a rental code at the very end if I can. So if that all sounds like a good time for you, let's just hop right into it. And before we get into it, I just want to remind everyone that we're trying to get to 50,000 subscribers on this channel. We're currently at about 44,000. If you think a guide like this is something you want to see more of, please let me know in the comments. Please think about dropping a sub or a like on the video. I would really appreciate it. And yeah, let's just start this off and do a little bit of building. First thing I like to do when building my teams from scratch is ask myself 3 questions. I would say you want to be as specific as possible when asking yourself these questions. I've narrowed down a few examples of questions you can ask yourself that should help you in this little team building exercise. The first thing you want to do is pick a team that you want a good matchup against. Just pick something you say, I want to beat that every single time. The next thing you could say is picking a play style you don't want an auto loss against. This is different from that first question because it's not saying like, I don't want to lose to Groudon. You could say, I don't want to lose to Sun. I don't want to lose to Trick Room is the example that I'm using. And last but not least, you can say something that makes the team preview phase as easy as possible. This could be adding, redirection, or adding a dynamic speed control user, or adding a mon that you're really comfortable with. Those can be 3 easy goals that'll steer you in the right direction and help you pick the mons that will help you accomplish your goals a lot easier. The 3 goals that I've chosen for this team are to have a good matchup in Miraidon Cali I for the first one. I think that's the most popular team in the meta right now. The ability to lead Miraidon, Volt Switch out, go into other Quark Drive Pokemon like Iron Hands, while still on the other side setting like Trick Room with Cali I, having that like electric and ice coverage that's really strong right now. I think it's one of the best teams in the meta, and so I want a team that has a good matchup into that. The second thing is I want a team that doesn't lose to Trick Room. You can say that's also similar to that first one where, I don't want to lose to the Trick Room aspect of the Cali I, but I just want a team that doesn't lose to Trick Room. There's a lot of Lunalas out there right now. There's a lot of hard Sunroom teams with Torkoal. I don't want to lose to those. That's the second option. I want to add tools to my team to help us hit these goals. And the third one is I want every possible lead matchup in this team to be easy to play and be highly valuable in a wide variety of matchups. So mostly like S, A, and like B tier options. Normally teams are going to have like 2 or 3 S tier lead options, usually maybe like 1 to 3, and then you have like probably 4 or 5 A tier lead options. Then most of your options are in the B tier. These are things that are going to help you win like games 2 and game 3 in like an open team sheet, best of 3 tournament setting. And there's nothing really wrong with like B tier options. I want a team that is so good and so easy to play that almost all of its options are just straight money in like every single matchup. And you might say, everybody wants that. And I'm telling you that everybody can have that. And you can have that too in building your own teams. If you take the time to follow these exercises and take probably about an hour to do all the work. So I'm going to be showing you the full everything you need to know to build one of these teams from scratch. And we're just going to get right into it. I like to do a lot of my building in-game. And then from there, I like to, put the finishing touches in on Showdown, even if I use Showdown. I do a lot of my building with pencil and paper. I would, encourage you guys to do the same because you can bring these notebooks with you anywhere. You can bust these notebooks out at tournaments. You can bust these notebooks out on the bus or wherever you are and just like review your notes and just get better over time. That being said, what are we going to do here? I'm going to go into my boxes and I'm going to be starting to add Pokemon that help us accomplish these goals. If you remember the goals, right before we get into this one more time, the goals are, I want this team to have a good matchup in Miraidon Cali I. I want this team to not lose the Trick Room, and I want every possible matchup this team has to be like easy to play for the most part based off its like lead options. So that being said, what is good into Miraidon and Cali I? I think we might have to take a look at what Miraidon and Cali I really bring to the table and give ourselves a refresher course about what those Pokemon bring. So Miraidon is going to be right here. So Miraidon is going to be right here. We see it has 135 base special attack, 135 speed. Really, really good mon. It sets the electric terrain and gets a boost whenever it comes on the board. People like to play this thing like choice specs, and it's a big special attacker. It comes out with like big electro drifts. It comes out with like big volt switches. There's so many little things that Miraidon can do, and it also can be like a little bit of an AoE mon as well. So you have to play around single target and AoE options with this thing if you want to go like Fairy Tera. It's really, really obnoxious. It's really hard to deal with, and a lot of the common tools that people used to use to beat like other Pokemon really struggle against like that electric dragon typing. And when you pair that with something like a Calyrex Ice, which is arguably one of the best Pokemon in the game, you now have the ability to like really slow the game down with this really, really bulky mon that also has access to massive AoE in Glacial Lance and, and Trick Room. And basically, it's really hard to check both of these things at the same time, especially because a lot of the double restricted Pokemon in Regulation I don't have those like tech options. Yes, you have things like Lunala that gets Wide Guard, Zamazenta that gets Wide Guard, but like both these mons, you can just slap like high horsepower on this thing, and like Electro Drift is a big single target attack, so it's not as attractive to just use a restricted that has Wide Guard. I was going to say a lot of the restricteds don't have the tech like fake out, like redirection that a lot of the other mons do, and then those mons get taken advantage of the fact that the power creep from them right on the Calyrex are so strong. So now that we've familiarized ourselves with what makes these Pokemon strong, what do we need to add to beat it? We need to add one Pokemon, right, that has a good enough matchup into these two. We need to add a Pokemon that threatens to KO one of these guys or force their Tera or make them use resources to meet us at our level. And you may be thinking like, well, if everyone knew that, we wouldn't need to make a video like this. Well, I think there are a few Pokemon that can actually get the job done. I think Calyrex Shadow is a Pokemon that can do that. You outspeed both those mons. You have super effective moves into the Cali Eye. You can pin the Miraidon. If you wanted to run a Specs Cali Shadow, you could definitely pin both of these mons. You're then at the mercy of like a Wide Guard user, normal Tera, Dark Tera, things like that. But Cali Shadow could technically get the job done. Going down into something like a Dialga, Dialga could also get the job done here. Dialga has super effective moves into both these Pokemon, takes both of their stab attacks at neutral, and Dialga could be a good mon for the situation. We're not using Dialga, but you see how by forcing ourselves to try to answer this question right here or meet this goal, we're starting to understand like more about the meta and how we could counter it. And in doing these little steps, Dialga is not the Pokemon for this team. But now that you know that Dialga could be something that deals very well in Miraidon and Cali-Eye, you might want to use Dialga in other teams in the future. So all these little steps all come together to make you a much more balanced Pokemon player over time. That being said, I'm just going to cut to the chase. The Pokemon that we're going to be using to check both Miraidon and Cali-Eye is going to be Groudon. I think Groudon has a pretty decent matchup. That's not Groudon. It's going to be Groudon. Groudon has a pretty decent matchup into both of these guys. If you actually take a look, Groudon can actually really pin the Miraidon. Right? It pins him Groudon with those big Precipice Blades. It does not pin Cali-Eye, but if we take a look at Groudon here, so Groudon is going to be right here, 90 base speed, 150 base attack, great base defenses. Groudon is normally built with a Fire Tera. So the cool thing that I like about this is if you have the P-Blades here, Groudon has Fire Tera, which means it's going to be resource intensive to deal with this matchup, but Groudon can flip on that Fire Tera, which stops both of Miraidon's moves from really having an impact. No one's just going to first turn lock in an Electro Drift into a Groudon because you're a ground type. They're probably going to go Fairy Tera, D-Gleam, because they don't want to die to the P-Blades and they want to deal the most damage as possible. So what we're doing is we're making them waste their resources, which is their Tera, to do a move that's not really going to do that much, and then they still kind of lose. And then if you have that Fire Tera on, you have a decent enough matchup into that Cali-Eye. Yes, they can go into like high horsepower and other stuff like that, but it's up to you then to add the tools to redirect it or fake out it or, do something to make sure high horsepower is not as effective as it might be like setting a reflect or something. So that being said, also, even if you do high horsepower, so we have like a 140 base defense. So that's our best defensive stat taking the hit. So you can see how Groudon might not be like the best choice ever, but it's a cool Pokemon that we came to the conclusion to use in this matchup that we would not have done otherwise if we didn't at first ask ourselves this question. So these questions are very, very important. You need to be making these sort of questions for your own teams. Don't ask yourself all these questions, but come up with 3 questions in like this this template right here. So that being said, I think Groudon is really, really good into Miraidon and Cali-Eye. So I think Groudon's going to be good. What we're going to do is we're going to add Groudon to the type chart right over here. Groudon to the type chart. And I would suggest using Maryland's Team Builder. It's going to show you what you're weak against and what you resist. And so you generally don't want to stack like too many total weaknesses. I don't usually like going over 2. And what I want to do is add like resistances to the things that, you know, I'm weak against. But we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. Let's go back to this list and let's add a Mon to help us not lose to Trick Room, while also adding something that helps against Miraidon Kali-I. Now, I think there is one simple answer here. I think there's one simple answer. Something that actually does both. Something that, like, weakens the Miraidon significantly, while also giving us stuff to not lose the TR, and something that helps us, you know, once we flip on that Fire Tera, not lose to that high horsepower from Kali-I. And that's going to be Indeedee. I think Indeedee is really good. If you take a look at our set here, we have Imprison Trick Room. So if we add an Indeedee to this, which we can go right here. So now our team looks like this. We have terrain control, so we're not getting fake outed because we have the Psychic Surge is going to be able to undercut the Miraidon. So not only can we lead like Groudon Indeedee, we can lead like Indeedee next to anything else and kind of just mitigate all of the Miraidon's like you know, control on the game, because it's just going to lose its steroid from its electric terrain because Indeedee has a slower terrain set than the Miraidon does. And then from there we can just go like Imprison, right? We can go Imprison, we can go TR. I know that like Imprison TR sounds kind of lame, but like, hey, the goal wasn't beat TR on the first turn every single time. The goal was not lose the TR. And Imprison is actually very different. It's not just an auto beat TR. I've heard this, people say this all the time. They say, people think you can just use Imprison and like beat TR. Imprison is not beat TR. It delays the activation of TR until the Pokemon that used Imprison is gone. So if Indeedee sets Imprison and it takes like 2 Glacial Lance and then goes down, you know what wasn't happening on the board for those 2 turns? Trick Room. And if I'm using the rest of my teammates correctly, I'm taking out your teammates every single time. So by the time you finally get the Indeedee out, you can no longer pivot or switch, which makes the game very easy, and you just full send damage into their Trick Room setter for that last turn, or you taunt it, or do something like that, and you basically just stop TR. It's a great way to play against redirection TR. It's a great way to play against fake out TR, against those teams, especially like Miraidon Kali-I, that are very tricky, that want to play like a semi-tail room playstyle. Indeedee is going to be a very, very good Mon to add to this team. And again, it also has that Follow Me, which you are also imprisoning. So you can just redirect away those high horsepowers if your Groudon has clicked to Fire Tera. I think it's a very, very good Mon on this team. Now, let's add Indeedee into the defensive team list over here. So Indeedee right here. And again, I think this is a pretty good thing to do. So Indeedee is not going to be adding any good defensive typing with Groudon, but we're also not stacking any like major weaknesses yet. So I think that's actually really, really important. Let's take a look at the next goal for our team here. The next goal was I want every possible way in this team to be easy to play and be highly valuable in a wide variety of matchups. I think there's a few Pokemon that can help you get this. This is generally where like the bread and butter, like the Swiss Army knife, the speed control of your team is going to come into play. You could even just say like an example here, like is add your speed control, like have easy to set up speed control. Things like Whimsicott get this, Talonflame get this. I think for this team, we probably are going to want a Tornadus. I think Tornadus is a good Mon here. And I think Tornadus is able to set the weather as well. So this one Pokemon is going to be single-handedly like solving most of our matchups. We can always kind of just lead Torn and be like, hey, I want Tailwind. Hey, I want Taunt. Hey, I want to reapply the Sun if you lead like Kyogre or set the Rain. Hey, I want a little bit of AoE. I want a little bit of Icy Wind, Bleak Wind, Speed Control, a bunch of cool stuff like that. Torn's a very easy to play Mon that's going to raise the effectiveness of all of the other Mons in your team. And the cool thing about Torn is it's going to get your opponents to recognize what your Speed Control is, and it's going to make them bring the right things to beat that speed control, which means their team previews are a lot easier to solve because you're saying like, hey, this is the tempo we're playing. You can either, you know, trade with me and rush me down, or you know how to wait me out. Either way, like Torn is like the no BS, like right way to, you know, get to the middle of the game, and it makes every single team preview basically like, cool, what do they have that stops Torn? Ooh, nothing, I win. Oh, if they have this, it's really obvious what they have. It could be like, you know, a different Tailwind setter, or it could be, you know, a couple things we're going to talk about. I'm getting way ahead of myself. Let's go back to the team builder here at our Torn. Getting way ahead of myself. Holy moly, because there's a lot of steps that goes into this. But Groudon, Indeedee, Torn, very, very cool stuff. We're going to add our team builder over here, defensive typing. All right. So now that we have like our core of like 3 Mons that help us hit these rolls, you see we've added 2 weaknesses to Ice, so we probably don't want to stack too many more Ice weaknesses. If anything, this is where, especially because we don't have any resists yet, we probably do want to get some Ice resist, because again, one of the Mons we don't want to lose to is Kali-I. That being said, what we want to do is, now that we've added these 3 mons and we've answered a couple of these questions, we want to start adding like more tools to help us get these things done. Let's add another mon that helps us have a good matchup in a Kali-I. This is where if I was playing in a double restricted format, I would be like, I have my Groudon, I have my mon that doesn't let me lose a TR, I have my Trick Room. This is where I would think about adding another restricted that helps me still accomplish all those goals. Remember, the first question was not lose a Groudon Kali, the second was don't lose a Trick Room, and the third one is give me a mon that is good into a wide variety of matchups, and a safe option into a wide variety of matchups. We'll talk about how to understand what your safe options are later. I think the mon that's obvious here is going to be Lunala. Lunala has been a very, very popular core in the past. It has good enough speed tier, 97 base speed. Lunala is a very, very good mon. It has a Shadow Shield ability to be able to cut any damage when you're at full HP, so it basically has like a built-in multi-scale. I think it's a really, really solid mon here. It threatens to have things like Wide Guard, Trick Room, it gets Tailwind itself, a lot of cool tech options on Lunala. So if we take a look back at our team builder here, we can throw the Lunala in here. And you can see now this is also a mon that helps us accomplish a couple more goals. It's going to help us into Miraidon Kali-I because it has super effective moves into the Kali-I, being that Moongeist Beam. It has great damage in the Miraidon. I can lead something like Indeedee Lunala, set that trainer on the Miraidon, and just pop the Miraidon with an Expanding Force. Easy peasy. They're going to have to switch. They take way too much damage. I think we're in a good spot there. And it's very, very easy to use. Like, Lunala is an easy answer for this team. Let's add the Lunala to the defensive team builder here. And Lunala has a lot of weaknesses, but it also has like really good typing in general. It has big weaknesses to like Dark and Ghost, which we're probably going to have to tear away. But you see how we're not going more than 2. What we need to add is Pokemon that resist this Ice and resist this Dark. And there are a few mons that let us do that. We're going to be adding those in just a minute here. But you can see how we're adding like a lot of cool resistances and stuff here. And a lot of the types that we, have one weakness to being like the Electric, the Grass, the Bug, the Rock, the Ghost. We have like at least one mon that covers in for those defensively, because you always need to have good defensive options. So let's take a look at the next mon we're going to be adding. The next mon that we're going to be adding here, I think this is a mon that will help us like deal with TR a little bit better and has synergy with the rest of the team that we're using. I think this is a good one to look at that adds the synergy here, and I think that's going to be Fluttermane. You could honestly, if you're using like a weather setter, you could add something like a Photosynthesis or a Chlorophyll. I think Lilligant's another cool option here, but I really do like Fluttermane. I think Fluttermane brings a lot to the table. It's a taunt user, so if they just want to lead like Miraidon Farigiraf and you don't want to get like Volt switched by the Miraidon into the Kali-I and then TR'd, you can just taunt that Farigiraf. They have to be respectful of your Icy Winds. If you lead Groudon and Flutter, they have to be respectful of you clicking like Icy Wind, P-Blades, Miraidon's gone, right? It's super simple. Remember, Fluttermane's going to be getting a Photosynthesis boost here. So Photosynthesis boost. There's a lot of mons that get Photosynthesis, by the way. So you could add like any of these mons. I think Fluttermane's probably the best here. Fluttermane, again, comes with a couple more similar weaknesses to Lunala, being that Ghost typing, but I think Fluttermane brings a lot to the table. It's basically the same type of mon as a Miraidon is. It's very fast. It's 135, 135, 135. It's good into Kali-I in some situations, has that big stab Shadow Ball. Taunt's very good. I think it has a lot of tech. It's like a secondary speed control. Another thing that I'm really, really big on when I'm building my own teams is making sure that one Pokemon does not have to do all the work to solve each of these goals. Like, it's not just up to Groudon to beat Miraidon Kali-I. It's up to everyone. It's not up to just Indeedee to stop Trick Room. It's up to everyone. It's not up to just Tornadus to make my team like playable in the wide variety of matchups. You want a little bit of everything, right? So if we go into like, how does this team deal with TR? We have Imprison Trick Room. We have Taunt. We have the ability to double up on things. How does this team deal with like speed control? We're gonna have Tailwind here. We're gonna have potential Tailwind over here. We're gonna have Icy Wind potential over here, right? You want your teammates to cover up and do a little bit of everything. This forces your opponent to have to really pick their poison in the team preview and makes them a lot easier to understand and condition into bringing the mons that you want them to bring. That being said, we still have a couple problems with our type chart here. Let's add this Fluttermane here, right? So this last spot here, we have 2 weaknesses to Dark, we have 2 weaknesses to Ice, and we need something that swaps in on these and like covers up for them. There are some pretty obvious choices. I wonder if you guys in the chat can understand what the last mon is, because there's one mon that has perfect synergy with this team that does resist both the ice and the dark. A lot of people are probably screaming, it's Incineroar. He's just going to show us how to use Incineroar. That's such a lame Pokemon. No, but it's actually really similar to Incineroar. It's going to be Chi-Yu. I think Chi-Yu is the Mon that comes in really, really well here. It has great synergy with the Flutter Mane. Its Beads of Ruin is going to be really helping the Flutter Mane and Lunala shred our opponents. It also has synergy with like Tornadus. It's just a really, really good Mon here. And its dark fire typing lets us resist dark ice. So I think it's a perfect Mon for this team. I'm probably going to be building a Specs one here, but I think Chi-Yu does a lot of things right. If we add Chi-Yu right here, so we add the Chi-Yu, look at that type chart. Yes, there are some weaknesses to it. Like, we have a couple weaknesses to water that we don't really have pivots into. That's going to be where Groudon's ability Drought and like a potential Sunny Day from the Torn to be able to cut those water moves is going to be very impactful. We now have a resistance to ice we can pivot in. We have two weaknesses to rock on Tornadus and Chi-Yu, but Groudon is a good pivot in for that. You know, we have two weaknesses to Dark. Chi-Yu is a good pivot there. Two weaknesses to Ghost. We have great pivots in for those as well. One of them being an immunity on Indeedee's normal typing. So this is like a really, really balanced, like good-looking type chart. I think this is really, really solid. And for other types, like, you know, Chi-Yu has a huge weakness to fighting from like an Urshifu, very, very popular Pokemon. We have three Mon that can pivot in on that. Something like our two Ghost types being Flutter Mane and Lunala, but also our flying resist Tornadus, which can also hold something like a Rocky Helmet. Really, really cool stuff here. I think this is a very, very good team. So what we're going to be doing is going over here, adding the Chi-Yu, and I think that we have now made a team of 6 Pokemon that should be able to accomplish a lot of the goals that we set out here. We have the ideas behind having a good matchman in Miraidon Kali-I. Also, Chi-Yu is just amazing in Miraidon Kali-I. If you pair it with like the Indeedee, you're going to take away the Electric Terrain Steroid from the Miraidon. You're going to be able to threaten or force Tera on Kali-I. If you force them into like a Water Tera or like a Fire Tera on that Kali-I, your Groudon's just going to come in. You're now going to have a super effective P-Blades into the Kali-I, and their Miraidon can't go Fairy Tera, which means it just gets folded by P-Blades as well. So Chi-Yu, I think, is a really, really solid Mon here. We have a team that doesn't lose the Trick Room for the most part. I think the Imprison Trick Room, with the usefulness of like the multiple taunt users potentially on Torn, Flutter, Chi-Yu also gets taunt as well if you want to use that. It should have a pretty decent matchup in most Trick Room teams, at least in a best of 3 setting. And then I think this team has a good variety of matchups. You know, you don't have to just lead your Groudon every single time. You know, you can lead like Indeedee Lunala or Torn Lunala. Like if we wanted to put like a Cloak on here, like a Ghost Tera, we can always play around like Fake Out right off the rip. It's going to be very easy to use. We have a bunch of like little cores here. Like Chi-Yu Flutter's a good core. Flutter Groudon's a good core. Indeedee can go with any of these Mons and get extreme value. So just being able to go redirection until Indeedee goes down, layer up a ton of AoE or single target damage, and then bring out your Torn, get that speed control, and continue the sweep. So I think we're doing a lot of things right here. And we've been doing this for about, you know, a little over 20 minutes, and we haven't even added a single move. And I think this is exactly what you need to be doing in your own games. You want to pick the Mons first, right? You want to get their defensive typing first, and you want to get the idea and the board states you want to create kind of in your head first before saying you have to use a specific set. Yes, we have a lot of this stuff built. I've already actually recorded a bunch of content with this team because I like this team, and this rental code will be available on Patreon very soon. There's also a bunch of cool stuff on Patreon. We're going to talk about that at the end of the video. It's going to be over here, but we have a bunch of cool stuff coming your way. And now I think it's going to be a good idea to start building this team from scratch and kind of like showing you guys how to add the right moves. Because I think there's a few common pitfalls that people fall into when building their teams. Few common pitfalls. People say like, all right, well, I want to use this Groudon and I'm going to have all these 4 moves. They're like, I'm just going to, you know, use something like Heat Crash and, you know, I'm going to put Swords Dance and I'm going to put Protect. And when you start doing all these things, and they put like a Clear Emmy over here, which is so stupid with Swords Dance, by the way. Like you would, I think leftovers are like Citrus is probably better because like they can't warrior stats anyway, so you don't need Swords Dance. Boko would probably be better. Anyways, when people do all this and they say like, and we have to have like this much speed and they want to go like 252, and you see how like they're doing all this like extra work and they're fleshing out this Groudon set. Maybe they ran a bunch of calcs and they come up with something like this. And like realistically, the reason why you don't want to just finish a Pokemon before working on everything else is because now every single other Pokemon has to bend the knee to like this specific Groudon set. And you can say you should be building around your restricteds. You should be finishing one of your restricteds and then adding the tools around it to support it. You can do both. You don't have to just finish one Pokemon at a time. Because what's going to happen is at the very end, this Chi-Yu is going to be left to like fill in the gaps for like 5 other perfectly completed Pokemon. And that's not how it works. You want to be building this team slowly. And the best way to do that is to just add 1 or 2 moves that help your mons hit the specific goal. Heck, we don't even know if we want to use physical Groudon, right? We don't know. We might want to go special Groudon. Special Groudon with like Eruption, like Specs or Scarf might be the right play on this team. And you don't want to lock yourself into saying that you can't do that when you're running your calcs. You want to add like 1 or 2 moves you want each of these Pokemon to run. And then from there, get their rolls straight. And then from there, start finishing them out. I like to add my moves, then maybe get an item here or there, then do the EVs, then kind of work on the Teras. That's kind of how I like to build my teams. And this is the exact sort of team building strategy that all the stuff that we're covering in this video is all stuff that I go over in my one-on-one coaching sessions on Patreon. If you're liking this so far and you would like me to walk you through this, think about checking out the Patreon. We have the team fixing that's officially up right now, and we do one-on-one coaching sessions where I walk you through all this. It takes about an hour, hour and a half, and you end up getting a really good understanding of the game, of how I like to look at the game, and you end up with a team that is built to your playstyle with mons that you like. So that's the promo. We're getting right back into this. So Groudon, what do we want Groudon to do? We want Groudon to have P-Blades. Obviously, we do. But we don't know if we want it to be like Swords Dance, Bulk Up, any sort of weird other stuff like that. We know we just want P-Blades. So Groudon could also be a cool mixed attacker. It doesn't have like terrible special attacks. So just P-Blades is fine. Usually want to add like 1 or 2 moves to get a good understanding of the role you want this Pokemon to do. We want it to be a bulky bruiser. So Indeedee, this is enough. We don't know if we want Dazzling Gleam. I know a lot of people using Alluring Voice. Psychic is still good on here. I think we just leave it with that right now. We know we want this Torn to set Tailwind, right? We know we want to set Tailwind, and we've talked about Sunny Day, and that's completely fine. We don't need to finish it out right now. This Lunala, we were talking about Wide Guard, but I still think it's too early to add that. We know that we talked about adding Moongeist Beam, and I think Moongeist Beam is a good add here. Do we need anything else? Kind of hard to say. Do we need anything else? No, I think we can leave it alone for now. Fluttermane, we talked about adding Taunt, and we talked about adding Icy Wind. I think these are 2 moves that are going to be very impactful on this Fluttermane. Being able to lead this next to Chi-Yu, Lunala, or Groudon enables these Pokemon to actually hit these super effective moves into the threats that we talked about. We can leave it alone. Chi-Yu. I think Chi-Yu's going to need Heat Wave. I mean, sucks that you need Heat Wave, but like, is going to need Heat Wave, I think. I like Dark Pulse, so we're going to put Dark Pulse on there too. So that's fine. These are 2 moves that I like to have. A little bit of single target, a little bit of AoE. Good stuff so far. Sometimes people like adding Overheat, Snarl, stuff like that. We don't know if we want to use like a choice Chi-Yu. We could even use like a Sash Chi-Yu on this team. There's a lot of cool different ways this team can go. It gets access to Taunt and other cool stuff. I've seen Cloak Chi-Yu work very well as well. So I think this is fine. And then once you get through a full iteration where you add like 1 or 2 mons or 1 or 2 moves on each of the mons on this team, you just go back to the top and you start adding a couple more moves. And like I said, I already kind of have this team built in-game. I have the rental coming out on Patreon in a couple days. But, you know, this is the exercise that I like to do. And so the next thing we obviously want to add is like Heat Crash, right? So Heat Crash is going to be pretty good, right? Let's go to the Indeedee. Do we know what we want to add now? Now that we've fleshed out a little bit more of these guys, do we know what we want this last move to be? It's probably just going to be Alluring Voice. The reason why you like Alluring Voice as opposed to like Dazzling Gleam in this format, there's a little bit less like Sash Mons. Like Sash Pow's not, I mean, Pow's still good, but it's not like as common paired next to like Redirection, which you would need the Dazzling Gleam for like in previous gens. And Alluring Voice is really good because there's so many restricteds that gain a stat boost like the turn they come on the board. Things like Zacian, things like Zamazenta, things like the Cali Riders getting a KO on your teammate with a, you know, a Glacial Lance or like a, what is it, an Astral Barrage. You're able to come in, see them get that boost, and just go for a Confuse. And so it's basically just here to do some damage, but hey, if you're able to let them get a boost and just like punish them for it, we take those all the way to the bank by getting Confusion on them for it. Torn, do we know what else we want here? We probably want like Bleak Wind. And this is going to be the first one we probably finish. This is a good rule of thumb whenever you're playing a Tornadus or a Pokemon with dynamic speed control boosted by Prankster. A good rule of thumb is generally to add Protect on them. So you can, if they're on the board, you know, like let's say you set Tailwind and then like you lived and then like maybe you Bleak Wind and got a KO or something. This is now your last turn of Tailwind. You drop that Protect just so you can reapply Tailwind next turn. So having that Protect elongates the effectiveness of your speed control. It makes these mons a lot harder to get off the board. And I think it generally just makes them, you know, better overall. Lunala here, I think we can start adding some tools here. We're probably going to want the Expanding Force because we have it next to an Indeedee with Psychic Surge. And then I think I'm probably going to want to add a little bit of aggressive options. I'm probably going to be playing this mostly on ladder, so I don't need this to be like perfect best of 3 open team sheet stuff. That would be a different sort of team building guide if you want to see something like that. So I'm probably going to be adding a Meteor Beam here. I'm probably going to be going Power Herb, Meteor Beam. And then one thing that I really like on my Lunalas here is I think a lot of people would go like Wide Guard, Protect, Moonblast if they're going to be going Fairy Tera. I like Dazzling Gleam a lot. This is where the Gleam comes in, and the way that I like to do this is, remember, the whole point is to be good into Miraidon Kali-I. I want the ability to still hit that Miraidon through Follow Me, through redirection. Like, in some situations, you're not going to be able to get a KO on the Miraidon with P-Blades, and so they might come in with, like, a Fire Ogre Pawn and be able to redirect away a Lunala, which would mostly be single target damage, and if they flipped the terrain up on you to where they have the terrain control and you don't have that Psychic Surge, you're kind of up the creek without a paddle on that Miraidon. But if you still have speed control, you can de-gleam that Miraidon for like 20-30% of its HP, especially if you force their Tera on something else, because it's going to be super effective. So I really do like the Dazzling Gleam here. It lets you still have a little bit of a way to hit for AoE without actually needing your terrain control. I really, really like it, and it's good into things like Koraidon as well. It's good into Urshifu, Shenpao, a lot of really cool stuff. I like the D-Gleam here over the Moonblast. Yes, we're using 4 attacks, but like I think the ability to bluff Wide Guard is in Close Sheet is going to be more important here for what we want to accomplish than just having it. Fluttermane. I think we're going to add the Moonblast here. So we see how we have the Dazzling Gleam here, and we have like the Moonblast here. So we still have the ability to play like around Wide Guards and stuff like that. And then the last move here, very similar to the Tornadus, right? If we have speed control and defensive like tech tools that we want to do our best to preserve them. I think this is where Protect looks very, very nice. So easy peasy. So this Chi-Yu, I think I'm probably going to run this guy's Specs. And there's a couple things that I like to do when I play Specs Chi-Yu. I think that Snarl is a really good option here. Being able to just lead this thing. Specs Snarl actually shreds thanks to the Beads of Ruin. It's still really, really good. It's really, really good into like those bulky Lunala teams. Like if you're fighting other Lunalas, this is the thing you do. You're going to break those Shadow Shields, hit them for like 1,000,000 damage. You're going to be able to force those Teras, and the stat drop that they get from that means even if they are Meteor Beam, you're still in like a really, really good spot. The last move that I like to put here, I think a lot of people like Overheat, but I'm going to add Psychic. And I've found really good value in Psychic on Chi-Yu recently. Obviously, this is good into like Urshi Water, but it's also really good when you pair it with the Indeedee. You can hit things like Koraidon for super effective and just shred it up. There's a lot of like little niche micro situations where Psychic is actually really, really nice. And so I'm a fan of Psychic here over Overheat. I don't want my Chi-Yu to use Overheat and be like a liability. I think in Reg C and like Reg F, other formats in which we've used Chi-Yu before, the obvious play is Overheat. But in a double restricted format, you have to realize when you KO something, there is a high chance that you're KOing something that they want you to KO so they can bring in one of their restricted Pokemon for free. So let's say I KO one of your Pokemon with an Overheat and I get a -2, and then you bring in a restricted. Now, not only do I have that minus attack, I can't particularly help my teammate, and if anything, I might be a liability to that teammate because my Beads of Ruin is shredding its Spidef as well. So let's say I KO their Kali-I with a massive Overheat, right? I lower my special attack, you bring out the Miraidon, and now you pin my Chi-Yu and my teammate. Whereas like, if I just locked in Heat Wave, like I probably still KO'd the Kali-I, and because it's Sun boosted Specs Heat Wave probably, and or Force Terror, you know, what have you. And I still have the ability to like threaten things with the Chi-Yu. I think the Overheat is too much of a tempo loss in a double restricted format. That's just my opinion. That's one of the reasons why we're going to be going with Psychic on this one. So that being said, we fleshed out most of these sets here. I think the last mon that we want to do is Groudon. Now, one thing that you might notice about this team is like we have AoE here, a decent amount of AoE here, Icy Wind here, big AoE here from Heat Waves, Snarls. So we don't want to just lose to Wide Guard. And Groudon's very susceptible to Wide Guard. A lot of people will like deliberately get like, they're like, that's fine. Like I can have all the weakness to Precipice Blades in the world if I just use Wide Guard, right? And so we need something that lets us still do what Groudon wants to do and not lose to Wide Guard. That's going to be adding something like High Horsepower here. I think High Horsepower is fine. And this is where the team builder, this is where we start adding tech. You know, I think every other one of these options, maybe the Psychic on Chi-Yu is a little bit dicey, but like this is standard. This is standard. This is standard. This one, you know, is a little bit dicey. We're going to use Scarf Groudon. And there's one move here. You might be thinking, you could put like Thunder Punch here. You could put Rock Slide here. You know, you can put, there's a bunch of different things you could put here. Brick Break, Heavy Slam. I've seen people use Iron Head, even though it's terrible. Nah, there's one move that Groudon gets. Fissure. And you may be thinking that's really, really bad. It's kind of bad. But there are some situations in which you're really behind, specifically against like other Lunalas that have that full Shadow Shield, or like a full health Terapagos, or just something that's like way too bulky to one-shot, like a Kyogre. Like if they get the rip on you, and you know, like let's say you lead like Groudon, Torn, or like let's say you lead like Groudon, Torn, and you know that their Torn is slower than your Torn, which means you could set Sunny Day, but they're going to underspeed you and set Rain Dance, or like maybe they would like a Murkrow or something, or like a different Prankster setter that has like a slower Rain Dance than you. Your only out in that pin, in that situation, would be to trade Tailwinds with them, and then take your Scarf Groudon and try and Fissure the Ogre. There's no pivot that you have for those water attacks, remember? And there's no way that you can pivot in, soak that damage, and, you know, repin with Groudon, because they're just gonna Rain Dance again. So in those situations, this is a line that technically has a way to win out that wouldn't otherwise. I've played with this team. I've gotten this Fissure off like 3 times. Sometimes it's just the line, and knowing when to add those little techs, that's what makes like team building fun and spicy and interesting, and helps us like flesh out some of these lines. Fissure is pretty bad, but for the most part, we're just going to be using P-Blades and Heat Crash. And what I really like about Scarf Groudon here is I think it does a really, really good job about helping us accomplish these goals. Now we outspeed the Miraidon and are really doing our best to force those defensive Teras, because they don't just want to get popped in the face. And they're going to know that we outspeed, because our Drought, if we do lead Groudon, activates before their electric terrain. So it's going to be really, really good. If you do want to lead Groudon, I don't think we should. I think if anything, you should actually just be saving the Groudon in the back, bringing it out in the mid game when they don't know that you're scarfed, and then just popping something. We also do a really good job about outspeeding things like Shadow Rider. If they're rocking like a Specs or Orb set, you can just pop that thing with a fat Heat Crash. We have a bunch of really, really good options here. So I think Groudon's going to be good. I think we don't lose to the TR if we add the right tools, and then we are going to be, once we add the EVs and Teras and the rest of our items, we're going to be forcing, we're going to be talking about all of our different lead optimizations. Man, these team builders take a while. If you guys are liking this content, if you want to see more content like this, where we break down and get you guys a good understanding of how I like to build my teams, can you please think about dropping a sub on that channel? We're trying our absolute best to get to 50,000 subs, and I will 100% make more content like this in the future if we can get some subs off this one. I think the last one I made, we actually got like a couple hundred subs off it, and I appreciate it so much. I think I built that one around Hisui Arcanine. And I just want to say, I want to make the content that you want to see. We're uploading a lot of really cool teams right now. I think we can get to 50K this year, and I would really appreciate it if you guys drop the sub. Here we go. Let's get into this team building here. I like to save my Teras for last, even though they're pretty obvious. The first thing we want to do here is do our EVs. So I think EVs are really important here. Groudon needs to, if you're going to be using a Choice Scarf, actually, let's do all of our items first. We do the items first. So the items here are going to be pretty obvious. I think you still go Safety Goggles here, that way you don't lose to a Mungus. Rocky Helmet's going to be used a little bit over here. I like Rocky Helmet over Cloak on Torn. It's just my opinion. I think Rocky Helmet Torn's really, really good as a defensive pivot into like Ursh, into like Pow, into Xenta, stuff like that. I really think it's a good pivot. Lunala, we're going to have that Power Herb here. Fluttermane's going to have a Sash, not Booster, because we can use Groudon and Tornadus to set the Photosynthesis for us, so I think Sash is just very nice here. And Chiu's going to be Specs. Very, very standard items here. So let's talk about these EVs. So Groudon, if we're going to be using a Choice Scarf Groudon, we got to think like, what does Groudon need to outspeed with a Choice Scarf? Let's plug in Shadow Rider Calyrex. So right there, and let's plug in Groudon. So when you're using like a team builder like this, scroll down to a Groudon, a base Groudon, set these to level 50, and you can see Shadow Rider gets to 222 speed. So Groudon needs to outspeed that from a +1 with its Choice Scarf. So you can see if we just put 252 in there, we don't outspeed it. So we're going to need Jolly Groudon to do this job. So that means we are going to go down here, select the Jolly Nature, and you can see now we massively outspeed it. And you can say full speed Jolly, like there's nothing wrong with that, because you are going to see like other, you know, base 90s, which Scarfs, like Scarf Kyogre is still a really, really good thing. If anything though, we kind of want to underspeed those Scarf Ogres. So right here's where we want 204 on our Groudon to outspeed that Shadow Rider, and at the same time, like, we don't really need to be full. We can take those extra 50 points and put them in bulk. So the first thing you want to do is get your speed tiers right on your Pokemon. It's the first thing you do whenever you build a Pokemon. You can get all your speed tiers first for all your other mons. We're just going to finish out the Groudon's EVs while we're here. So 204 is good there. I do not mind going into a 252 here into attack. Massive attack. We want to be able to do big damage. And then from there, you want to think, okay, I have 52 points. You could just put those anywhere you want. You could put them right here. You could put them right here. You can put them right here. I think the best thing to do instead of just putting 52 right here, and normally you would want to be putting your points in HP over the other respective defenses because you're going to mitigate more damage to both defense and special defense at the same time and putting these extra points in HP. So you can do something like this, but a little bit more of an optimal way to use it is, remember, the way you build EVs, right, is the first 4 matter, and then after that it's every 8. So if we put 4 in, it goes from 175 to 176, and then from there if we put 8 in, it goes from 176, we go to 12, 177. 178, 179, 179, and so on and so on, right? So instead of just putting 52 right here, it's going to be a better idea to cut that up into a 44, take 8 out, and then cut that 8 up in 2 sets of 4. This is going to make your Groudon just a little bit bulkier. This is going to throw off your opponent's calcs into like standard 252 Groudon by about 3 to 4%. And so it's these little min-max things that are actually going to give you a lot more wins over time than just clicking the button and going like 252 cruise control for cool, right? So I really think this is a good way to basically still function as the same full speed Groudon set, but find your way to get a little bit more value. We could also, if we really wanted to spend a lot of time in the damage calculator, find a way to probably cut a little bit of attack and put even more bulk for a specific matchup. So that's something you guys could be doing in your own games, like, and really working overtime to get the right amount of value out of your sets. That being said, this is a good Groudon set. Indeedee. Generally on these mons, you want to put your, let's do our speed tier first. Make sure your speed is 0 speed reduced on an Indeedee. The reason being is you don't want to speed tie other popular terrain setters like Rillaboom. You want to be able to potentially underspeed them so your terrain goes last. So when they lead Rillaboom, which is a good mon into Groudon, because it can threaten with like Grassy Glide and Woodhammer, you want to be able to underspeed that so your terrain goes up first so they can't use Fake Out. Their Grassy Glides don't have the terrain boost. They don't get the boost to the damage from the grassy terrain either. So speed reduced, 0 speed is going to be the way to do that. And then from there, with Indeedee, you generally want to think, after going like roughly full HP, you think, do I want to be like more SPDEF or defense oriented? And I'm going to put more of my points into defense. And the reason I'm going to be doing that is, remember, we want this Pokemon to have a good matchup into Trick Room. And I think the best Trick Room setters in the format are going to be Cali-I and Lunala. And Indeedee has a great matchup in Lunala. We resist Expanding Force. We have a neutrality to the Moongeist Beam. So I think we don't really need to put that much in SPDEF. I think we're going to be fine just putting points in defense and soaking a lot of that damage from the Cali-I. We're actually going to make this into a water type so we can actually like flip it on and block as many Glacial Lances as possible. So in doing so, what I would do is play for the bump here. And the bump is going to happen when you combine your nature, which is a 10% boost to one of your stats, with all the other points that you get. So you can see we're going to find the situation. Where is it? We're looking. Right. Where is it? Right there. So the bump happens when it goes from 119 to 121 after just 8. It's going to be combining your nature. Every Pokemon has bumps that happen on every single one of their stats. You just find the bump, easy peasy, and you put the remaining points in SPDEF. If you just want to go 2v2 HP defense, that's also fine. But this is letting you get like more points than you normally would have, just finding ways to optimize right where those bumps are and using those to your advantage. That being said, we're going to move on to the Tornadus here. Tornadus is going to be very bulky. We're going to be actually building this guy with the Rock Hymn, like I said. So this is like, we're rocking like big physical defenses over here. We don't want to put a lot of points in SPDEF because we're going to be shredding our own SPDEF with our Chi-Yu. So that being said, how do we want to optimize this Torn? I think that I like to play my Torns a lot slower so I can actually always underspeed those other, Rain Dance Torns. So like when I do lead Groudon versus Torn, I actually want to be the one with the slower one, so I can actually just sit in front of their, like, they Rain Dance, I Sunny Day, and then I still gain that weather control, and I just high horsepower P-Blades out there Ogre. So that being said, I like full HP on these guys. Again, it's usually a general good rule of thumb to put points in your HP. We're only going to use like 4 points in speed here. And then from there, I think the thing that I like here is I like going, I think, 188. I know I'm not really explaining what the set does here, but it's a good set. And then from there we go 4 and 60. I'm going to explain what it does. So when we go this expensive here in defense, this is going to let us block damage from Zacian, from Urshi Water. When Urshi Waters want to lead and go like Water Tera, like double dip, like Adamant Surging Strikes, this actually eats that Surging Strikes if there are no other multipliers, like if there's no Rain or if there's no Shempow. This is going to let you actually eat that without having to use a Sunny Day. So you can actually lead like, Torn Lunala, set the Tailwind, not lose your Torn, and then they take 3 ticks of Rocky Helmet. So it's actually a really, really cool set. This is one that I'm generally pretty comfortable with. You have these extra 60 points, you might as well put them in Spadef. And yeah, I think it's just really, really good. It's great into Zenta too. I found this is just a good set into Zenta. Very, very good bulky Torn. We're not really doing that much damage. Remember, Bleak Wind also doesn't get the accuracy drop like Hurricane does in the Sun, so feel free to use Bleak Wind. Really, really solid EV spread here. As for this Lunala, this is going to be a hard one, right? I'm trying to remember exactly how I play this Lunala. Lunala is really cool because it has a 97 base speed, which actually means it's the same as Urshifu, which means you only really need to get right here. If we get the Lunala at full speed, let's go back to the damage calculator. Lunala at full speed, which looks like crazy. By most people's standards, like full speed Lunala is nuts. But let's say we give that Shadow Rider that we were fighting against a -1 from an Icy Wind from a Flutter Mane that would potentially break its Sash. You see how we outspeed it by 1 right there. And I really, really like that. It gives us the luxury of being full a special attack modest Lunala. And we're basically just using our Shadow Shield like a built-in Sash. So we can just go something like a 244 plus. And then you still want to go with that same cut up 4-4-4. There's no reason not to. Easy EV spread here. Full speed Lunala is a menace, and it's going to let you leverage a huge advantage over a bunch of other like bulky restricteds, things like Kyogres, Kyurems, Reshurams. You're just going to be able to like go up into these, know that you have like a speed tier that does leverage advantage, and just bully from there. Really, really cool stuff, especially when you combine it with like Bleak Wind speed drops, Icy Winds, and the like. So let's go into this Flutter Mane. Flutter Mane's a little bit different. Normally, you'd want to say you can go some bulk in the Flutter Mane, but since it's Sash, there's no reason you wouldn't just like kind of click the button here. And I like to put my last 4 in HP up here. You could even cut this up into 244, but since we have the Focus Sash, we don't need to get all cute about it. We can kind of just go full speed and do everything we need. We don't need to get like really deep into like putting points in bulk because we're going to be trying to get one-shotted basically. So we don't need to go crazy with this Flutter Mane. And then last but not least, this Chi-Yu. Chi-Yu, I'm a big fan of Timid Chi-Yu, especially I have the specs here. I think you need Timid in this format just to be able to make sure that you're outspeeding people that want to go like Timid Kyogre or Timid, like there's so many base 90s in this format. If we sort of like, if we look at other base speeds, like 80s, 90, 90, 90, 90, 90, 90, 95s, right? We just want to make sure that we're outspeeding these. And we also don't ever want to get outsped by like an Ursh. That's like, we don't want to get outsped by like a Mystic Water Ursh. She was a 3 base speed higher than Urshifu, so we can get away with that. And then from there, honestly, like I just do the same thing that I've been telling you guys, 244, 4-4. Easy peasy. You could probably cut a little bit of the special attack and find ways to like put it in a little bit of bulk, maybe a little bit of defense or HP if you wanted to, but I'm saying you don't have to. It's not like the most important thing ever. I think you're going to be fine in these situations. The last thing I like to do is do my Teras. I'm going to go Fire Tera double dip on this Chi-Yu. You don't need Dark. You don't need Ghost. I think a lot of people like Ghost here, but since we have Indeedee to stop Fake Out, we don't really need that. So I like double dipping my Fire here. For this Flutter Mane, I think I'm going to go Fairy. I think Ghost is also acceptable in some situations if you had Shadow Ball over Moonblast. That way you can still KO a lot of things. But that being said, I think that Fairy is good. Sometimes you can get a double dip on your Moonblast, which is great. I've seen people also go Grass there, but I also don't want to create Teras that like send me down the wrong flowcharts. I don't want to look at my Flutter Mane Tera and be like, I could live this weird thing if I want like Grass Tera. Like I don't want to follow that like line down because I feel like I want to make my Teras as obvious as possible. So give myself like double dips in these situations. Save my Teras for the mons that need them, like the Groudon, like the Lunala who's going to be going Fairy. And I want to make it as easy as possible to know when it's right and wrong to Tera. That's just me. I think I like building my teams like that. As for my Torn, I think I do like going Ghost on this Torn just because I have the Rocky Helmet in case I need speed control for something and I'm pinned by Fake Out. You know, we have a lot of Ghosts over here as well, so like being able to always lead and threaten that is just really good. We have the Water over here and we have the Groudon with the Fire. So that being said, if we click the Validate here, this team is ready to go for Reg I. So what we're going to be doing now is going and playing a couple games with this team. I guess I could just play it in game. I think I'll just do that. I was gonna play it on Showdown, but like I have the team right here, so like I'll play some games with it. Yeah, we're gonna go play some games with this team. I'm gonna walk you guys through kind of what we want to do, and then the last thing that we're gonna do is talk about optimizing our S tier, A tier lead optimizations. And you're not gonna know exactly how to do that until you play a few games with your team. So let's go play a couple games with this team, and then see how we can optimize this to best understand like where each lead combination falls on this little list here. There's about 15 different lead combinations, and remember, I want all of them to be viable. All right, here we go. We're playing this on Showdown here. I was trying to get games in-game, like actual on Scarlet and Violet, but yeah, it's way too hard to find people to play against on the ladder since the ladder doesn't officially start until the 1st. So what we're doing is just trying this on Showdown. It's the exact team we're going to be playing against. I wonder if they're going to be opening up with like whims and how much of a problem that is. I think they really should be just going like Iron Hands, you know, maybe a little bit of redirection or like Friggraph. So I think that's probably what we're going to see. I think there's nothing wrong with Groudon Indeedee here. I think Lunala is good. And I'm going to bring Flutter for a little bit of like late game speed control. Plus like just Sash Flutter. Plus like Taunt is good in the late game. So I think Flutter's good. Hopefully we don't see Whims Miraidon, but it's fine even if we do. So Miraidon and Iron Hands. It's exactly what we wanted to see. Do you see how we pin this like really well here? You can't fake out. There's not that much you can do. You can terastallize and do a bunch of stuff, but like we also outspeed your Miraidon here, right? You can see that the Grout activates first over the Hydron, and so we know that they're not scarfed as well. So P-Blades is going to slap. And like, honestly, I think I'm just going to Alluring Voice the Iron Hands. Like, it's just a little bit of extra damage. You probably have to Terastallize this Miraidon or Volt Switch it out. I could click Follow Me here. Actually, hold the French Toast. I am going to click Follow Me here. Because I don't want you Draco Meteor critting my Groudon. Yeah, that's fair. Cool. So you're probably just going to be Volt Switching, though. And you would be at the mercy of me clicking like a Ground Tera with our Indeedee or something. They only have a little bit of time left. Show me that Draco. Oof, Dunzo. He didn't even Tera. I thought they might have to Tera there. Drain Punch, cool. Absolutely acceptable. Iron Hands is still within range for a P-Blades here. And do you see how, like, do you see the value that Scarf Groudon actually brings this matchup? It's like absolutely amazing. Here's the Friggraph. This is where the Imprison happens. And yo, GG, shake my hand. What are you going to do? Hard pivot out Iron Hands for Cali, Soka P-Blades, eat the Imprison, and the next turn we just like Fire Tera the Groudon and just went out. Like, that's easy peasy. We have the Follow Me to make it so they can't make a read and go for high horsepower. We have everything that we need to win this matchup as long as we hit a couple more P-Blades. Miss, never lucky. Hands goes down. Imprison goes up. No TR. Oh my gosh, it's almost like we play the game here. It would have been really nice to hit that Friggraph, but it's not the end of the world. And so now in this situation, I'm trying to think of exactly what we want to do here. I will Terastallize my Groudon, and I think I am going to Follow Me so I can block a foul play into the Groudon. Indeedee wouldn't take that much damage even though it's super effective. This would also stop like a high horsepower something from coming out. So Calyrex Ice comes out, easy peasy lemon squeezy. Fire Tera goes up, P-Blades goes up. Follow Me goes up. We could also Terastallize the Indeedee here and just like lose the Groudon. That wouldn't be the end of the world because we would just be able to repin with Lunala. We haven't seen their Tera yet. We don't know what Tera that is on Cali I, but I do think that Lunala has the ability to break both of those if we can stick one P-Blades into either of them. Moongeist Beam's good into Cali I. Meteor Beam's good against both. So let's see what we get. Grass Tera. Okay. Okay, I see you. Grass Tera Cali I. That's definitely a choice. And let's see if they make a read. Glacial Lance is absolutely fine. I think we can finish off the Friggraph here. And then, honestly, Psychic Terrain is still up. Like, we just come in and clap with, like, Expanding Force here. So P-Blades plus Expanding Force. We don't even want to miss or do anything weird. And also, Expanding Force here lets us play around a little bit of Ally Switch from Friggraph. Not that we would really realistically be seeing that, but we should be fine. There is a situation in which Trick Room goes up this turn, but they can't get up Trick Room and like break the Shadow Shield at the same time, assuming we hit our P-Blades into this Friggraph. So if Friggraph gets hit by P-Blades, and they want to set TR with Cali, then next turn, yes, they can click the Glacial Lance to KO the Groudon, or maybe KO the Groudon. But let's see how this one works. I think we have the right tools here. P-Blades hits, Taser the Friggraph, easy peasy lemon squeezy, single target Expanding Force, almost gets the KO. There's the Trick Room, and you just see how they don't have enough resources to actively like do anything with this. Like, we can just flip on another Expanding Force and just win the game. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, Scarf Groudon solves it. We don't even lose either of our restricteds in this matchup, and that's how this team wants to be able to beat Cali I Miraidon. Very, very solid core, but you see how the Indeedee and the Groudon setting the weather, going for the big AoE super effective moves against most of their team. It really makes it hard for that team to play its kind of like semi-Tailwind Trick Room game. And we didn't even need our last Mom, which is Flutter. So I think that's a pretty good example of how we want to solve that matchup. And let's go into another game and see if we can get another win against like a random team. So let's go try that one right now. Standard looking team. We got a little bit of Torn, a little bit of Kyogre, big Miraidon. I think there's nothing really wrong with leading Torn here. I think Torn's a good lead. I think Groudon's still a solid bring. I think Groudon might be better in the back though. What if we just went like Torn, Chi-Yu? What do you do? Torn Chi-Yu seems really good. And then maybe like a little bit of Groudon, Lunala. I vibe with that. Don't need Flutter in this matchup particularly, so let's just try that. And so we have to play around like the Sash and Sin. I want to see if they even set Tailwind. I want to see if they lead Torn. Remember, our Torn's made to underspeed theirs. So we should be able to just like, oh, you have this weather? It's like, do you really though? Like, we should just be able to Sunny Day, soak a lot of this damage. And like, once you dump truck the Ogre with like one hit, they're basically useless for like the rest of the set. Like the Spout's not a factor. And so let's see if they're, see how they went first with the Rain Dance? Easy peasy, we soak this. Okay, just kidding. So that's Spexed Ogre. Big Spexed Ogre. Okay. Huh. Alright. If that's how they're going to play that. That sucks, by the way. Yeah, we Tailwind here. And just Meteor Beam the Torn. Nice. It's the right play for me. You read them, like, pivoting around. Yeah, they're taunting here to stop, like, TR or something weird. Tailwind goes up. Meteor Beam, if we can pop this Torn, we just don't have to worry about the weather anymore. Let's see if it's sashed. Not sashed. Honestly, it looks like Cloak. So now you can send that Ogre back out, but we have all the tools that we need. So we got a lot of good stuff out there. So now you bring out the Ogre. I think we can probably just, we don't even need to do anything with this Torn here. We could Sunny Day if we felt like it. I'm gonna Dazzle. I'm just thinking about how else I want to do this. I think it's nothing, they're not wrong in Sunny Daying here, but I also think I can just pivot and Groudon and block like an Electrotech there and just Dazzle. Yeah, I love that for me. Tailwind's up, like there's the Kyogre. You're gonna get your weather up, right? And you can KO either of these guys. It doesn't really matter. Yep. I could have went to Rain Dance there, but easy peasy. Look at that. Woo! Dunzo, bro. And now, like, I massively pinned both these Mons in the back. Yeah, he went for the good Aqua Jet there. Cool. Yeah, I think we're good here. Trying to think of what we need to do. I think you just need to hit a P-Blades. Like, just hit your moves. Easy peasy. Easy peasy, hit your P-Blades. Oh my gosh, it's so good. It's so good. Like, any team that's, like, built around Miraidon, we just honestly take, like, really, really good wins into. So, I like this a lot. I think this team's doing a lot of stuff right. What we want to do right now is go into... Give me one sec. What we want to do right now is go take a look at optimizing our leads. So we're going to hop right into that right now. So I think we did a good job of like having a good matchup and right on Kali. I think we did a good job of not losing to TR. I think we did a good job of like understanding this team has a lot of like really high power leads we can go with. I think the last thing we want to really take a look at is understanding what these leads are. And like I said, there's about 15 or 16 different leads you can have for every single team. So what we want to do is see what's the value. Where would I rank like the value of Groudon and Indeedee? Where would I rank the value of Groudon and Torn? Where would I rank the value of Groudon, Lunala, Groudon Flutter, Groudon Chi-Yu? Once you get to the end of that, you want to see what's the value of Indeedee Torn, Indeedee Lunala, Indeedee Flutter, Indeedee Chi-Yu, vice versa, and go through and see where every single lead is good. You want to talk about the good things, the bad things, and expand upon what you want your teammates in the back to be to capitalize off the threat that your lead, puts pressure on your opponent with. I think it's a really, really good exercise, and everyone should be doing this in every one of your own team building exercises or team building, strategies or stuff like that. So we're going to talk about what is the value of Indeedee and Groudon. Where would I put these? Where would I rank these in this little tier list right here? The value that comes with Indeedee and Groudon is the ability, like you just saw in the game that we just played, to lead this into Kali and Miraidon. You lead with it. It stops Fake Out. It stops the opposing terrains. It stops Trick Room. It lets us redirect to potentially save our Groudon, and it lets us go for massive AoE. I would say this is an easy S tier lead. Like being able to beat one of the best teams in the game, perfectly countered. And even when you see when they go for the Drain Punch there, they don't even restore enough health to live through like a second P-Blade. It's absolutely amazing. So I'd put this in the S tier. So that's going to be, let me just get some room to type stuff here. So Groudon, Indeedee. And so if you wanted to write down and expand upon every single reason why, you could, but we just explained it in the video form. So Groudon Indeedee is going to be an S tier lead for honestly the redirection, the way to stop Trick Room, the ability to go for multiple forms of like AoE. Another thing I really like about this lead too is it's really also good against other teams that have like Tailwind. What you can do is go Groudon Indeedee, and then you go follow me like P-Blades or follow me Heat Crash, or do whatever you're going to do with Groudon. Follow me until Indeedee's gone, and then just bring out your own Torn, and then stagger that Tailwind back. And so the Groudon just keeps sweeping with like the AoE, and you have like the Scarf Groudon, so you're going to be able to regain that speed control and put pressure on, and then Lunala's the perfect Pokemon on the back. So if you lead Groudon Indeedee, your Mons in the back of that are probably going to be either Flutter or Torn with like the Lunala as the last spot. Those are just my opinions. Taking a look at the next one here. Where would I rank Groudon Torn? That's another very obvious like S tier lead, I think. I think we led with that in... Did we lead with that in game 2 here? We led Torn and Chi-Yu, but roughly the same idea, right? It's your anti-weather lead. The fact that we have a slow Torn is going to be very good. So we're going to go Groudon. Torn. So the value in this is you're able to slowly set that weather, you're able to stagger those tailwinds, you're able to do damage with Bleak Wind, but you have protect powers. I think one thing about this that we might be able to use if we wanted to like optimize this, maybe make this into like a ground Tera, so when they lead into Miraidon, you could just flip on like a ground Tera if you wanted, and just trap the Miraidon in if they wanted to Volt Switch or Torn, pin them with the Groudon, then have a, you know, a good old-fashioned good time. I think it's a really, really good lead into like Kyogre and stuff like that. I think Torn is a very, very solid Mon. So yeah, I think it's an obvious S tier lead. And again, the Mons you want to have in the back, if you play something like this, would probably be something like the Indeedee. So if you're threatened by Fake Out from like an Incinerate Iron Hands or a Rillaboom, you can just pivot out the Torn for the Indeedee, take out the terrain, dump truck them or their teammate, and you're in a good spot. You could also bring something like the Lunala as well. I think it's a very, very good Mon there. Let's take a look at the next one. That's going to be Groudon and Lunala, both of our restricteds. I think that's, honestly, I'm going to put that in the A tier. And there's nothing wrong with being like in the A or B tier. Remember, one of the goals was having a lot of good leads, and A tier leads are a good one. And the reason why Groudon and Lunala are A tier instead of an S tier is because there's like no speed control. There's not a lot of tech. I have no protects. I have just a lot of damage on board, but like my opponent can honestly outvalue me with like a Torn Ursh or like another really, really aggressive Tailwind lead. I fall prey to Wide Guard. I fall prey to Redirection if there was a threat of that as well in some situations. So it's very, very one-dimensional, but one-dimensional doesn't mean bad. Like, in some situations, this is a really, really good lead mix-up for Game 2. Sometimes it's a really safe lead for Game 1, because there's not a lot of things that one-shot Lunala while also not dying to Scarf Groudon, and vice versa. There's not a lot of things that just one-shot Groudon either. So I think it's just a solid lead. Sometimes you just got to go with it. I think it's a solid one. Let's take a look at the next one here. Groudon and Fluttermane. Another pretty obvious S tier, I think. So we have Groudon here. And S tier can be, like, really subjective, but I think, like, honestly, like, Groudon Fluttermane has a lot of value. Just like all these other ones. The ability to... So, what's a really good... The reason why these are S tier is because each of these teammates are inherently enabling Groudon to win the game by itself. The Torn and the Flutter are setting that speed control, having the taunt control. Remember, the goals for this team were to not lose the TR and have a good matchup in a Kali-I. The Flutter and the Torn set our speed control with Icy Wind. The Flutter and the Indeedee can taunt/disable Trick Rooms. All of these mons are pulling pressure away from our Groudon, allowing our Groudon to go for as many P-Blades as possible. If we wanted to weave in Fissures, if we wanted to go for Heat Crashes into their speed control, we have the ability to do that because of the leverage we're able to exert with our good teammates here. They're the right mons for the right situations. And again, that Sash Flutter means we're able to basically let our Groudon like function in a much more aggressive speed tier than we normally would. What I really like about Groudon Flutter is the lead potential into Flutter Chi-Yu, right? When you get that speed boost, you're able to Icy Wind, drop their Flutter speed if you win the speed tie, drop their Scarf Chi-Yu speed, and then Groudon comes in and dump trucks both of them with P-Blades, because you're going to be able to outspeed that Chi-Yu with our Scarf if the Chi-Yu's -1 from your Flutter's Icy Wind if you get that speed drop. And I think that's like really, really cool. A lot of people don't really see that one coming. It's great in close sheet. So I think it makes this definitely like an S tier lead right here. Very, very easy to play, cruise control for cool, and it gives you if you don't need to set dynamic speed control or need those +2, Flutter would be a good alternative there against those teams that have like those Stash Mons or Scarf Mons. Up next is going to be Groudon Chi-Yu. Groudon Chi-Yu is probably A tier. I'm going to put it in B tier, and there's nothing really wrong with B tier. These are the things you dip into to solve for specific matchups in games 2 and 3. So Groudon Chi-Yu here. The reason why I would put this in B tier is, first of all, you're going to lower your Groudon special defense with your Chi-Yu. Second of all, It's very similar to Lunala, but like Chi-Yu's a lot more susceptible to just being like KO'd by something random like a Scarf Ursh or something. And this is good into something like Trick Room. So like if you know that they have Trick Room and they have like a Follow Me tech, maybe not like a necessarily Wide Guard tech, you can just lead Groudon and Chi-Yu, and against most Kali Eyes, they have to Terastallize a way to get away from the Chi-Yu. And so if they Terastallize Fire, Groudon pins, and vice versa. It's really, really good into like Terapagos, those bulky, like hard Trick Room teams. This is a great lead into something like Lilycole or most Sunroom variants of hard TR if you don't want to use Indeedee or you don't want to use your Flutter. If you know that they're just going to try and like race you to the finish, you can sometimes just lead this and say like, you're done. So I think this is a really, really cool lead. I also really like the Chi-Yu being able to like psychic Koraidons in some situations, because they don't usually Tera the fire in front of the Groudon, but if you Terastallize your Chi-Yu, you're gonna be able to live through an attack from them, and you just psychic them right off the rip, and it's a really, really good feeling. I think B tier leads are definitely acceptable. This is one of the ones that has the least amount of synergy because there's not as much speed control, but even if they KO either of these mons, you just bring out your Torn, set the Tailwind, and just continue the sweep easy peasy, right? Close with Lunala in the last spot. Up next, we're going to take a look at Indeedee Torn. Indeedee Torn is another of the lower power leads this team has, but there are good things about it. I would say it's probably in the B tier. I don't think there's any teams in the C or D tier for this one. So Indeedee Torn. And the value that Indeedee Torn brings to the table is you're able to pick your speed control and be as safe as possible. You can go Tailwind with your Torn, Follow Me, or you can go like Trick Room with your Indeedee, Protect with your Torn, pivot in something. What I really like about the Indeedee Torn is you can sometimes do something like this. What I think Indeedee Torn is really good into is another variant of fighting against like Miraidon Kali I. So if we like take a look at this right here. Come on, pause it. There we go. Perfect. All right, so switch viewpoint. So against this sort of team right here, Indeedee Torn is really, really good into a lot of the other variants for like a game 2 mix-up. So you saw in that first game, they went hands Miraidon. They're probably not going to do that again because of the Indeedee. They might bring them Miraidon, they might leave it in the back, they might go for like a Tailwind aspect here. So when you lead Indeedee Torn into that, what you can actually do is just Protect with your Torn, pivot out your Indeedee for your Groudon, and that's going to block that Miraidon from using any sort of like Volt Switch, Electro Drift, anything like that. And if they did lock in that Volt Switch, they can't do anything into the Groudon, right? Because, you know, we blocked them right there. So even if they targeted the Torn, we protected that turn. And then next turn, we'd be able to go for like a Tailwind, pin the Miraidon right off the rip with the P-Blades. Very, very cool. It lets us bring our Indeedee right back in and also take away the terrain if that was an option if we wanted to. So I think like it's a good like game 2 or game 3 mix-up into against like Miraidon Kali I teams that lets you reapply your terrain control over and over and over again. And it basically forces your opponent to reveal their hand, reveal their lead. Because if they wanted to lead like Whims Miraidon there, you would be able to just go Follow Me like Bleak Wind KO their Whims, right? I mean, so like we would take those and then you would just stagger the Tailwind, bring out your Groudon when you feel like it. They have to lock into those electric moves, and you still have the ability to imprison the TR if you wanted to imprison the TR. You could imprison the TR, pivot out the Torn for like a Chi-Yu to block a Glacial Lance, and just pin right there with a Heat Wave. There's so many different lines it goes down, so I definitely think it's deserving of being in like the B tier. It's just a very matchup specific type of lead. All right, let's take a look at the next one. That is going to be Indeedee Lunala. Indeedee Lunala, I would say, you know, it's easy to say that's an S, but I think it's an A tier lead. Because I think there are a lot of problems with it. That's just my opinion. I think that like you could say it's S, but like I think it's a little bit too standard. Indeedee Lunala. And so one of the reasons why it's not like S is like there's not a lot of tech. We have the Imprison, we have the TR, but I can't click Imprison and Follow Me at the same time, which means it's very Tera reliant on the Lunala. If you have like a Snarl or you have your own form of speed control, it's really susceptible for them just shoving the Lunala in, or even just like Pivot and Rilla, like really slows that board down. Incineroar gives it a lot of problems. We have to click Meteor Beams, and if we have to be clicking Meteor Beam, and we have to be clicking Imprison, and we have to be clicking Follow Me, you know, we're not clicking like the actual other moves that deal a lot of damage. So I think it's just a great lead. It's good to just do that sometimes. I really like this lead into things like Kyogre, because their Tornaduses can't set the Bleak Wind and like a Tailwind at the same time, and you outspeed base Kyogres with our 97 base speed Lunala, so you're actually going to be able to stick that Expanding Force, which severely weakens the Water Spout. So I really like that a lot, but you know, it's still an H lead. I wouldn't say it's like bad. You have the ability to pivot in Groudon. You can bring Chi-Yu in the back, you can bring Fluttermane in the back. There's a lot of good options here. So that's Indeedee Lunala. Indeedee Fluttermane. Indeedee Fluttermane is a weed that I like to use against like Terapagos sometimes. I think it's pretty good. It's basically the same as like, you know, the Groudon Flutter, where you have like the ability to go like follow me, Icy Wind. Your ability to like, it's probably your best team into, I'm gonna put it in the B tier. It's very, very specific. So you have Indeedee Flutter. It's your best lead into TR because you have the ability to imprison TR and you can taunt an imprison user, right? And there are going to be situations where you get your imprison and then they TR with their TR user. I've seen it happen, and you can stop that with this team. You can also stop like Roar users or anything weird if you wanted to manually TR yourself. Like there's nothing wrong with you just like using TR as a win con on this team. Lunala's like that. Lunala's fast. Like one of the ways to actually beat Miraidon in some ways is just to let them like set Tailwind with his whims, lead Groudon and Indeedee, and just pivot out the Groudon for the Lunala on turn 1, TR, and now they're stuck with the wrong terrain up, Miraidon and whims, and you just have terrain up, and you just basically, you can Trick Room it. I'm trying to like show you guys the lines. All right, so if I lead Groudon and Indeedee, and you lead Miraidon whims, I can just click Trick Room here. You have to Tailwind because you see that my Groudon outspeeds the Miraidon, and you're probably going into this slot right here. I can Trick Room here, pivot in my Lunala, and then next turn I can go Expanding Force, get some big damage, maybe KO your whims, chunk that Miraidon if you left it in and click D-Gleam or something, and then just Trick Room it back once those guys are gone, and then Imprison once the Cali comes out. There's so many cool lines that you can do here, and just using Trick Room is good. So the ability to taunt things, you can go Icy Wind, you can just go follow me, Icy Wind, follow me, and you can get like 3 Icy Winds off, and then you just bring out your Groudon and your Lunala and win the game. Very, very specific type of lead, but this is also pretty good into like Flutter, Koraidon teams. Matchups where if you just need to stick that one Moonblast into something, you can win. I like this a lot. This is like a jank destroyer too. If they're like using some sort of like self-policy proc team or like a beat-up justified team, this is a really good lead into that because you're going to be able to follow me, Icy Wind into this beat-up mon to make it slower than its justified counterpart, which really throws off the whole combo. And I just think that you're doing a lot of stuff right with this one. It's very obnoxious to deal with. Let's take a look at the next one. It's going to be Indeedee Chi-Yu. I led Indeedee Chi-Yu in this game, and our Chi-Yu got absolutely popped by that Ogre. They had to be Specs, Water Tera, Double Dip to do that. But if they didn't, if they weren't Specs, Super, Omega, Kyogre, actually, I think you were, right? You're faster than me. I think they're like full speed. I don't think they're Scarf. I think they're full speed Specs. That's how the only way to get that damage. Like full speed Timid 252 Specs would actually outspeed there, wouldn't it? No, it wouldn't. They have to be Scarf. Huh? That's just weird that KO'd. Either way, I think we're still fine. We were still fine, obviously, in the game. It didn't really matter. But I do think it's a very, very solid lead. Where would I put that? Where would I put that? Actually, I would like that, right? No, I would Torn. Why am I saying that I did that? I led Torn. Indeedee Chi-Yu is a little bit different. Let's see. Let's just use Indeedee Chi-Yu in a game and see what that looks like. Let's just play a game with Indeedee Chi-Yu. I want to show you guys what that looks like. It's a different variant to the Groudon. That's a great looking team. TR, Domlings is obnoxious. So Indeedee Chi-Yu, what I really like about this lead is it lets you disguise the fact that you're Scarf Groudon for a really, really long time. So I'm going to bring the Groudon here. We're going to bring the Lunala. We don't really have to respect Tailwind. I don't think so. I think that looks most like a TR team to me. I don't know what that Armourouge thinks it's doing, but I think we're going to be in a good spot here. So here we go. Indeedee and Chi-Yu. We have a lot of damage. There's the Torn. Cool. So remember we were talking about, we can go TR if we feel like it. That's a really weird looking board. Well, if we get the Torn off the board, Groudon cleans everything up. So I'm actually going to Imprison, and I'm just going to, man, Psychic Slaps. Okay, it gets the boost from the side terrain. That's so sick. I'm just going to Dark Pulse here. Kind of want to Rain Dance, but I like Dark Pulse because you lock it in. That doesn't work. Don't do that. Don't do that. What did this guy? Oh my gosh. No, stop it, bro. The ultimate bodied, bro. Hey, you know what? Beggars can't be choosers, right? We're going to do that just to break potential sash. Dark Pulse slaps this Torn in the face. Dude, he went for the fake out taunt in the terrain. I wonder if he's like not Psy Seeds. There's a Tailwind. Heal Pulse. I could have followed me that. It's no big deal. So that's like the only move that guy probably has. We break potential sash there. I think that we can just low-key ignore that if we want. I think I can just go follow me. I'll just go follow me Dark Pulse. I'll take a heal. Sub. Okay. Dude, this guy's cooking, by the way. He's actually just cooking. don't particularly care. We're just kind of waiting out their Tailwind turns, honestly. And then, like, next turn, we're just going to follow me. But what a weird game, right? What a weird game. And it's fine to, like, play against these, like, low ladder teams, I think, just if you're testing your ideas to see if your lines work. But do you see how, like, what we're doing here is we're just clicking follow me until, like, our Indeedee would go down. And then we just bring out Torn or Groudon and apply that speed control and just pin. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. It's very similar to the Groudon. It lets you hide the fact that your Groudon's Scarf if there's abilities that would be activating on the first turn. Chi-Yu swapping on Chi-Yu. Look at this board. It's like that Spider-Man meme. Yeah, you don't have any other moves that can probably be clicked, right? You have Fake Out, Heal Pulse, you probably, I don't know if you have Alluring Voice, but like, we do really, really good damage here. I think that we're fine to just stay in here. I think I'm just going to go after, I mean, I can Pivot in Groudon. Pivot in Groudon, Dark Pulse there, lets me pin. Nice. Doesn't die. Heal Pulse is fine. Dunzo. And then now, I don't know if you Tailwind. Because you can Dark Pulse there, I'll absolutely let it, because then we just bring out Lunala, flip on our terrain, and just win the game. Awesome. So if you want to click Tailwind, you will be losing that Mon. 95% accurate move. Let's go. Tailwind's up. You can KO there. Oh, I still outspeed, bro! Oh my gosh, yo. The absolute massive L. He set the Tailwind and still got outsped, bro. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, hate to see it for them. I still outspeed. That's so good. Look at this damage. Woo! 6%. Not gonna do it. Glacial Lance is good, but it's not gonna be able to win out here. We don't even need to show anything else. Yeah, cool. We win. What a weird game, right? All right, GG's. So, yeah, we take that one. I think it's a good lead, though. Like, Indeedee Chi-Yu just has a lot of value. So that being said, where would I put it? Is it as good as some of the other leads? Like, is it as good as Indeedee Groudon? I don't think so. It's probably an A-tier lead just because Chi-Yu is a little bit... It's not as bulky as Groudon. It's not a restricted. It's not setting the weather. So, let's go Indeedee. And usually, you're starting to see a pattern here where a lot of these ones that aren't featuring one or both of our restricteds are starting to like be in the B and A tier weeds, and the ones that feature our restricteds heavily are going to be in the S tier weeds. So that being said, I think we're fine looking at that one. Let's take a look at the next one, which is Torn Lunala. I really, really like Torn Lunala. It's great into Fake Out. It's great into like some forms of redirection. We have speed control. We have weather control. It's great into Torn Ogre. Like there's so many things it's good against. It's great into Zenta. It's good into Zenta Shadow Rider too. It's good into the Miraidon stuff. I like it a lot. I would put that in the S tier. I think it's just a solid lead. You have the Meteor Beam. What I like to do is go like Tailwind, Meteor Beam, get the +1, bring in the Indeedee. Indeedee clicks redirection for like 1,000,000 turns, and Lunala just blows things up with the +1 expanding force. Easiest like glue eater brain team to use, and I think it's really, really good. It's good into Koraidon. There are so many things it's good against. I like it quite a bit. So that's all you really need to know. You can just blow things up with it. That being said, we got Torn Flutter. Torn Flutter is an A tier lead, and it's a good A tier lead. So the cool thing about this one is you have access to the most amount of speed control here. You have access to Tailwind taunts to be able to taunt like other like weird stuff. You have Tailwind Icy Wind, which means if there are teams that are like all in on Tailwind, you can set them to just go Tailwind, Icy Wind, break potential sash on like a Shadow Rider, get a speed drop, and then you just bring in Groudon, easy peasy win. Bring in the Lunala, easy peasy win from that point. Really, really good. I like this lead a lot if you're going to be going up against like other Scarf Mons that are problematic. It's good into like Scarf Chi-Yu in some situations. It's good into any sort of like teams that are all in on Tailwind. So if it's like it's an obvious like race to the finish Mon or a team that like obviously has a lot of sashes, this is a really, really cool lead. I would definitely recommend it in a lot of your games. This being said, what are we doing next? We got Torn Chi-Yu. Torn Chi-Yu, I think it's an A tier lead. I don't think it's S anymore. It's susceptible to Fake Out, loses to Wide Guard, and one of the reasons why it's not amazing is because it doesn't feature any restricteds, right? It's good. It's just not like absolutely amazing. It's pretty solid. The problem with this is you don't really have room for your terrain in this one. So if you go Torn Chi-Yu, you're susceptible to Fake Out. You don't really have room for that Indeedee because you should be bringing the Groudon and the Lunala or the Groudon on the Flutter in that one. So, and your Lunala is not going to have like the terrain control to actually utilize expanding forces. That's one of those good examples of it being more aligned on the D-Gleam for its AoE. But I do think you still have a lot of good tools here. Torn Chi-Yu also does cut the special defense on your own Torn. So it's kind of hard to play against. I think, like I said, I used Torn Chi-Yu in this game, and you saw what happened. Like, sometimes it just doesn't work out on the first turn, but we still have the right tempo to win the game. Right, we still can go for those slow weathers. I like this into like not super fast ogres, because if you chunk the ogre once and put it within range for like a P-Blades or like Lunala damage, you basically do win the game. I'm really surprised that ogre still got that damage. But yeah, Christu has a good space Spadef, but you can see we still won out, but you can see if like things go bad, you're in for a bad time. So A tier is fine with it, it's just not like S tier quality. And now we have Lunala Flutter, and I really like Lunala Flutter. Lunala Flutter is an S tier lead in my opinion. From this one, you can go Torn in the back, you can go Indeedee in the back, you can go Groudon, you can go Groudon Indeedee, you can go so many different lines. I really like this one because it lets you outspeed things. It's really good into like Ursh leads. You go Icy Wind, breaks their sash, get those speed drops, and allows the Lunala to come in and clap things really, really quick. I really, really like this into Groudon. You can just Icy Wind if you know they're not Clear Amulet, break them easy peasy. You have the taunt power if you still want to be able to stop TRs. If like against like Lunala in some situations, if they want to lead like Lunala Farigiraf and go for all those like Volt Switch, bring in the Kalis, you can taunt the Farigiraf, just throw a fat Moongeist Beam into the what is that, Mirana? Or you can go Fairy Tera Deagle and just chunk damage on both. If they pivot in the Kali, they're in for a bad time. I think it's a solid lead. What's really cool about it, like I said, is it's not you're not weak to fake out in any single situation here. You got a lot of coverage. Fairy coverage, ghost coverage, psychic coverage, really cool stuff, and you're able to threaten and pivot in Indeedee and just blow things up with expanding whenever you feel like it. So I like it a lot. Very, very cool lead. And then we have Lunala Chi-Yu. Lunala Chi-Yu is probably a B tier lead, which you might not think that it should be that low. And none of these are ranked in their tier. They're just there by the order. So Lunala Chi-Yu. So you're starting to see a pattern when we use Chi-Yu on the lead. In that, like, it lowers our teammates' Spadef, which makes us, like, weak to... So if I would, like, Lunala Chi-Yu and led Torn over, you could just click, like, Bleakwind Spout, and I would just fall over. We'd lose our Shadow Shield to the Bleakwind, the Spout would come in, or the Origin Pulse, and it would just wreck both our Mons. And it would be able to pop the Lunala from once the Shadow Shield's gone, thanks to the Chew damage shred. This can be a good lead, though, into, like, some forms of Sunroom, because you can threaten the Tera on their Kali, and then like sometimes Kalis go Dragon Tera. So like if you were to lead like an Indeedee Kali versus a Kali I versus Lunala Chi-Yu, I can go Heat Wave, force you into like a Dragon Tera, and then go Fairy Tera D-Gleam. That Fairy Tera D-Gleam with the Chi-Yu damage shred after the Heat Wave should be actually enough to maybe almost KO them. And if they're going like some sort of like Follow Me TR because they don't want to get hit by like Dark Pulse or something, they don't then have the tools to like break both the Chi-Yu and the Lunala, so it's a very specific lead, but I still think B tier makes it just very, very good, easy to use. Again, the key to understanding what these things do and when you want to dip into this little bag of tricks is these are the things that make you a good player over time. I think we have one more little combo here, and that's going to be Chi-Yu Flutter. I think Chi-Yu Flutter is probably an S tier lead. It's one of the few S tier leads or like high tier leads that actually don't use either restricted. So it's kind of a mix. Like if you actually want to look at it in a weird situation, Chi-Yu is like a secondary Groudon, and Fluttermane's a secondary Lunala. So it's kind of like a faster, more aggressive Lunala Groudon. That's what I really like about this team. Remember, one of the goals was to make this team as like easy to use as possible, and we're filling a lot of the same roles with a lot of the same Mons that just do slightly different things. One good thing about Chi-Yu Flutter is you have the ability to swap out either of them for Groudon. You can swap out the Flutter for Groudon to enable the Chi-Yu to do massive damage with Heat Wave, or you can swap out the Chi-Yu for Groudon to enable the Flutter's Photosynthesis to do stuff like that as well. Or you can just lead with both. You can go Ice Wind with the Flutter. It'll let you outspeed some weird Mons like Roaring Moon that might not have their booster activated if they're not using booster, which means you can outspeed them with Chi-Yu. I think it's a really, really cool lead, and it's just pretty good. That is all of the lead optimizations here. So you can see this team has mostly S tier leads, which is great. Has a lot of good solid A tier leads and just a few B tier leads. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So that's every single lead combination that you have. And we went down exactly where you would like to use them. That being said, this team, if you guys want to use this team in your own games, it's going to have a rental code on my Patreon. So now that you guys have spent all this time learning how this team works, if you guys want to use this team in your own games, the rental code for this team is going to be on my Patreon, as well as all the other rental teams for all the other teams I use. That's all on Patreon. We have a team submission post. If you guys want me to do a little exercise where I use and fix your teams in a very similar style to how I actually went and fixed and made this team today, that's what we do on the Patreon here. We have a bunch of people's teams we're working on. Even the lowest tier gets access to this post. And I would greatly appreciate you checking out. We have a bunch of cool stuff happening on Patreon. You get your name added to the credits. You get access to the Discord tab where we have a specific Patreon tab for people that want questions and answers. It's the best place to get a hold of me if you want my opinion on your team or what you should be doing to further your own Pokemon journey. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, we went through the full team building process for this team. We built the team from scratch. We talked about all the different roles and the different things that we wanted this team to do. We optimized all the defensive typings on the Maryland chart. We went through and talked about all the different tiered weeds. I think that's basically all that we really need to do with this team. The last thing I will say is, if you guys want to do me a humongous favor and think about dropping a sub on the channel, I would really, really appreciate it. We're trying to get to 50,000 subscribers, and I think it's content like this that could potentially get us there if I want to take a little bit more time to take you guys inside my mind a little bit to talk about how I like to build my teams. I think this is the stuff that people like to see the most. So if you guys like this sort of content, please let me know in the comments. Please leave a like on the video while you're down there. And yeah, if we can get this one to 100 likes, that would be really, really cool. I would appreciate it. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Good luck once Reg I starts. And yeah, peace out. I'll see you guys next time.